We'll go ahead and start our meeting since we are live. So I'm using a coaster as my gavel. Welcome to the 167th regular meeting of the South Slough Reserve Management Commission. Good to see all of you here. We have a new reserve manager as well. So let's do roll call, and then Patricia, I'll have you give a little spiel after we go through that, so those who were not part of the selection process can get to know you a little bit more. So roll call. Can I have you do that, Rebecca, or someone?
Yep, I sure can. We'll go ahead and start with everyone in the auditorium today. Rebecca Muse, Operations Manager at the Reserve.
Okay.
Next, Alice Yates. I'm the Stewardship Coordinator at the Reserve.
Hi, I'm Cherie Turner. I'm the Seasonal Educational Specialist.
Hello.
Hello, Jennifer Kirkland, GIS Specialist at the South Slough Reserve.
John.
We didn't get that. We got the John. I'm assuming that's John Burns. Or is there another John?
No.
Okay, so the last person I have was Jennifer Kirkland.
Right,
If
this
someone-
one. I'm John Sweet, the representative
Oh,
of Coos County, and this will be my last meeting. I'm sorry to say. I've been delighted to be involved, and I've just run out of time to do all the things I'd like to do.
and I totally understand that one, John. I think about that every day, and every day goes by quicker than the day before. So, great, thank you. Who else is in the room at the Reserve? And then we'll go to the people on the screen.
Kathy Andreas, an Administrative Assistant.
Hi, Kathy.
Saber Comet, Coastal Training Program Coordinator, South Slough Reserve. And then we also have Ed. He's in the corner dealing with our IT stuff. And then we have Patricia here, but we'll leave her for last. Everyone online, let's go next. Laura Beth.
Good morning. I'm Laura Beth Barton. I'm on the Management Commission.
Maya.
Hi, I'm Maya Watts. I'm the Education Program Coordinator at the University of Oregon's Marine Lab, the Oregon Institute of Marine Biology.
Chris.
Chris Wall, representing NOAA's Office for Coastal Management. I'm a non-voting member of the board or commission, forgive me.
Jessica.
Hi, I'm Jessica Quinlan. I'm the public member of the Management Commission.
Cinnamon.
Hi, everyone. My name is Cinnamon Moffat. I'm the Research Program Manager at Hatfield and part of the commission.
John.
Yeah, hi, I'm John Burns. I'm the CEO of the Port of Coos Bay, and I'm on the Management Commission.
Jamie.
Hey everyone, Jamie Bellinger. I'm the Education Coordinator at the South Slough.
Brian.
Hi, I'm Brian. Different Brian. I'm Brian Cochran. I am the Real Property Policy Specialist. I'm here at the invitation of Patricia.
Cool.
Christine.
Good morning, Christine Moffat, Friends of South Slough. Without my video.
And then lastly, but not least, we have Ryan.
Hi, I'm Ryan Scott. I'm don't have my video on. I'm listening in on this one.
Okay, great. It appears that we have a quorum. And I'm Vicki Walker. I'm the Director of the Department of State Lands and the Chair of the Management Commission. So I will get my coaster out from under my glass and declare a quorum.
We also have a last minute addition to the auditorium. We have Ashton, our AmeriCorps, that just showed up in the back.
Okay, great. All right. I actually want to approve the agenda before we introduce the new manager. I wanted to add one piece to the agenda, which is we need to elect a vice president. I had a mediation that was supposed to go yesterday, today, and tomorrow, but it got canceled for today. So it was like, oh, shoot, we don't have a vice president and we're supposed to by statute. So let me dispense of that order of business right after we introduce Patricia. So I'd like to amend the agenda to add the election of the VP. Does anyone object? Hearing none, all those in favor of amending the agenda?
Aye.
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 All right, and then all those approved, aye. Of the agenda as amended?
Aye.
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 Oh, I love the sound of all those ayes this morning. Okay, all right. Okay, now let's move back to the great moment of today. I'd love to introduce to you all Patricia Fox. And for those of you who were not able to participate in the interviews, Patricia, there was a strong group of candidates and Patricia rose to the top and was chosen. And she is, was, and still is a Department of State Lands employee. So, Patricia, why don't you introduce yourself and tell folks a little bit more about you, and hopefully we can see you on the screen because all we see is a room with a lot of people. Ed, are you able to focus on Patricia specifically?
Well, good morning, folks. Hopefully you can hear me okay. This is me. Hi.
Yeah, we can't. I was hoping Ed could focus on you a little closer, but
Well, I'll go ahead and start. I'm humbled and grateful to be here. I am the new reserve manager, and as Vicki stated, I do come from the Department of State Lands. I was the Southern Operations Manager, head of the regulatory program for removal fill, our wetland scientist program, and our proprietary program, which is how we use our navigable and state-owned waterways for 29 counties of the state, including Coos County. But I got my start with studying in ecology in the University of Georgia on coastal ecology issues down off the islands of southern Georgia and in the Keys. And then later on in my career, decided to go back to school and have a master's in tree canopy science. So that's a little bit more about me, but I've done a lot of formal and informal education and outreach programs throughout my career, and just really excited about this opportunity. Still live in the San Am Canyon, finishing up a rebuild from the 2020 Beachy Creek fire, and then we'll be relocating down here to South Coast to Port Orford, where we already purchased property. So this position kind of increases that timeline, but I'm very excited to be moving permanently to the South Coast. So that's just a little bit about me, and I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
great, thank you, Patricia. Excuse me. We really enjoyed hearing about your background and your work in the Peace Corps and all the great things you've done. So we will look forward to you becoming a South Coastie. Okay, our next order of business on the agenda would be to elect a VP. Can I get someone to self-nominate or someone to nominate one of you to be a vice president?
Can I ask a question first?
Yeah.
Can you tell me what the role that the vice president would have to take? What are the responsibilities?
Your responsibility is to take over when I'm not able to. Which is basically what it is. Rebecca, or let's see, Patricia, I think you sent me an email with the statute this morning.
Statute, which I don't actually have the exact statute in front of me, but I can email it to the board afterwards. It does state that you are required to have a vice chair in the event that the chair is not able to attend and run the meetings. And with Vicki's mediation that we thought she was going to maybe possibly be interrupted today, I just thought it would be something to bring to light to the group. But as far as my understanding, it doesn't specifically outline a lot of the specific duties. It really just seems more as a stand-in to run these meetings, make sure there's a quorum, et cetera.
That's exactly right. And you can go ahead and after the meeting, send the statute out, because there's probably other things we need to send out after the meeting. So Jessica, does that mean that you would like to serve as vice chair?
No. I think so. Whoever serves as vice chair probably should know what you're talking about a lot of the time. So I want someone like Rebecca, who seems to me on it, would be.
She's not a member of the commission. So
oh, it has to be a member of the commission?
Yeah, yeah.
I see. Okay. Oh, huh.
We've had the chief of the CT Klutzy served for a while. We had just another member, Lonnie. I can't remember his last name now. He served for a while, so it can be any of you. And we try, we don't schedule our meetings unless I can attend. So it's just in case I have to exit or leave momentarily to take a call, then I can hand the gavel over.
This is Rebecca, and I will have to add that if anyone volunteers and they need assistance, I can definitely assist in those situations. But the biggest thing that we're looking for is someone to just run the meetings when Vicky cannot be in attendance. And their 1-year terms is, I believe, what the statute states.
Well, if you guys will give me some assistance, I'd be happy to run for that position.
And definitely give anyone who volunteers to do this assistance. So thank you, Laura Beth.
I'm sorry, I had to go fetch the dog. So who was that? Laura Beth that agreed to volunteer? Awesome. Okay. Then
as long as you don't test me on it.
Yeah, you'll be fine. And I promise I'll try to attend as regularly as possible. Okay, so we have a vice chair nominated, Laura Beth Barton. So can I get a second on that nomination?
I second that nomination.
Awesome. All right, then all those in favor of Laura Beth Barton serving as our vice chair, please say aye.
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 Anyone opposed?
Abstain.
All right, thank you, Laura Beth. I appreciate it. All right, review of the minutes. Hopefully you've all read these very fine minutes that Kathy works hard to put together. Do I have a motion to approve? And then I'll ask if there's any amendments.
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
Okay, so is there any discussion? Does anyone want to make any changes? Okay, see, Kathy just does a fine job.
That's an excellent job. Excellent.
I know, it's amazing. So, okay, well, with that, we've got a motion and a second. So all those in favor of approving the minutes as written, say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, that passes. We move on to item 4, public input. Do we have public input today, Rebecca?
No public input this time around.
Okay, then we'll move on to agenda item 5, which is the Deal Triangle property acquisition. And I'm glad John Sweet is still with us because he knows about this property, as does Lance Morgan, who will be succeeding John on the commission. But we have questions. I'm sure John will be able to answer them. So I think this is time for Patricia to shine and give us the background on that.
Hello, folks. So this is to request for approval to initiate due diligence to use grant funding to purchase a total of 113 acres of forest land from Coos County to expand the reserve's boundaries. There are 2 different pieces of properties, and their desire are different of why we like to acquire them. The first is the Deal property. There is an exhibit in your packet a couple of sheets later that can show you where it's located, but it's 100 acres. This is known as the Deal property, and this piece of property is the only area suitable for the spawning habitat for coho salmon in the local watershed, and it also supports habitat for lamprey, marlet, So acquiring and transferring the management of the deal property to the reserve would really ensure this habitat for threatened and endangered species is protected in perpetuity. The second parcel is known as the Triangle property, which is 13 acres. And this parcel would improve access to the reserve because of its location and prevent future timber harvest on lands adjacent to the reserve. The Coos County would like to also sell this particular parcel because of the size and the position that made it unsuitable for commercial forestry. So these two parcels together have been agreed upon meeting with Coos County commissioners back in January of this year, that we could agree on a yellow book appraised value for both parcels. And additionally, that the county would remove the derelict buildings or some structures on two of the homesteads after the purchase of the properties. So the first time that the reserve was wanting to do the due diligence to acquire these parcels, there was a match involved. This was from the procurement, acquisition, and contracting funding, and there was a match involved. This time around, through the bipartisan infrastructure law, there is no match requirement. So this puts the reserve in a very good position to be able to finish the due diligence by partnering with the Wild Rivers Land Trust and to actually acquire the property itself. So there has been a lot of work from former staff that have worked with the Coquille Indian Tribe, the CT Klutzi, Co-Basin Coho Partnership, or the Coos Basin Coho Partnership. And we submitted a full grant proposal to NOAA just last month for the purchase and the restorations of the properties. So the recommendation is to authorize the reserve through the Department of State Lands real property staff to complete the due diligence and support the acquisition of the land and mineral rights for both of these properties, totaling 113 acres. And I'm happy to try to answer any questions, as I am, did not get to participate in any of this amazing work that folks have been working on for several years.
Okay, great, thank you. And I've had to move outside. The dog needed out, and they have coyotes in the neighborhood. So I'm out here temporarily until the dog is done. So hands are up. Laura Beth, what have you got for us today? This is a great thing, and I'm sure you've got some good questions. So
I just have some basic questions. Number one, it sounds like a no-brainer to me. I mean, if we've got grants, we don't have any matching.
no match.
You know, everything sounds really great. I just wanted to double check and make sure there were no cons to this deal for the reserve. Everything is pro.
Pretty much this is Rebecca. Pretty much everything in this whole transaction is a pro for the reserve. As Patricia mentioned, we've been working on this for several years. We've tried once before and it just didn't work out because of the match requirement with the procurement, acquisition, and construction grants that we have available from NOAA for these types of uses. This situation with the BIL, the Bipartisan Infrastructure Act, definitely opens up a wonderful opportunity with no match requirement. I personally and professionally do not see any pros with this. So it's definitely a beneficial across the board.
You mean you don't see any cons?
I'm sorry, any cons? Yes.
I know
money.
I know what you meant.
Thank
you very much.
We've had the appraisals done, and those are fair appraisals. And am I correct? Or are we going to get the appraisals done?
Had one appraisal done previously during the first time we tried to acquire this property, but we will be updating those this time around because obviously life has changed over the last, I believe it was 6 years ago we tried this the first time. We also have Brian Cochran on the call here. He's from the real property department of DSL, and he might be able to expand on any other type of requirements that we'll need to do before we can acquire this property.
Okay, then I'd like to hear from Brian about that, and then Cinnamon, I'll get to you next. Brian? And a 6-year-old appraisal is very stale, so we'd have to have a new one, of course.
Hi.
Hi.
Yeah, and it seems like it's a different shape of the property down in the Deal area. It's a little bit larger to encompass some of the forest around it, from what I gathered from the last attempt at this. So yeah, it'll definitely need to be a completely different appraisal, and then there's some tax lot work we're gonna have to do that I'm aware of.
Okay, and then we have to go to the land board.
Correct.
So, okay, all right. Cinnamon.
I was just going to ask a little bit more about the structure removal and if there would be anything that we would have to do after the structure was removed. Is there any concerns about what's on the property now?
That's a great question. So who can answer that?
I can possibly answer that. This is Rebecca again. So in the agreement with the county, they agreed to remove the derelict buildings that are on the property currently. In the grant that we applied for the acquisition, we also included restoration of the site. So there will be a pretty good restoration project happening after the acquisition. The money that was involved in the grant we applied for covers both the acquisition as well as any restoration that is needed for the property. So all of the costs that will be involved will be covered by that grant.
So no tanks buried, no hazardous materials that we know of at this point.
Not that we know of. We always, during the due diligence, all of those things will be verified and gone through. One of the other things to add on this is we've had Wild Rivers Land Trust under contract for the last 1.5 years, give or take, to help us prepare for some of these acquisitions. So they've been going through a lot of those due diligence processes already, and they will continue to work with us over the next year to complete those due diligence steps.
Great, thank you.
Right, and then I see the letter from the county commissioners. John, you and Rod and Bob have all sent a letter in indicating that you do plan to sell these parcels at the appraised price and the due diligence activities. Is that still your understanding?
Yes, it is, and we agreed to that. And with that, I think I should probably recuse myself from any further deliberation or voting on this.
Yeah, I was thinking probably the same thing, John. So I just wanted to clarify you had submitted that letter. So you can abstain from that vote then.
Vicky, we have one comment from the room as well from Sabra.
Okay.
Are these historical properties or more like modern logging, properties, structures? Are they historic or more of just modern logging leftovers?
I believe they're from the original homestead that was on the property. I'm not sure if they're historical, but they're probably in the line of 50 years old, give or take.
Do we already have?
They're destroyed. They're basically in ruins. So even safety wise, we would have to have them removed no matter what.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, great. All right. Any other questions then? It looks like it's just going to be a really great opportunity for salmon habitat, lamprey, all kinds of things. So you're right, Laura Beth. This is a no-brainer. All right. Well, let me go ahead and take a vote. Let's look at the recommendation to be sure. I need someone to make the motion on the recommendation, which is on page 11. Could someone make that motion, please?
Sure. I'll make a motion. Oh, yeah. I'll make a motion that the department recommends the South Slough Management Commission authorize the reserve through the Department of State Lands real property staff to complete due diligence and work in support of the acquisition of land and mineral rights for the Deal property, 100 acres, and the Triangle property, 13 acres.
John Burns seconds.
All right, great. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor of the motion, and John will abstain, not John Burns, but John Sweet. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, great. Thank you so much. We'll move forward on that. I think this is going to be a great opportunity. Okay, let's see. I'm going to try to move back in when we go to the next item, fee schedule. So I will go off camera and move back in the house. Patricia, you want
This
to
is
take this up?
Rebecca. This is
Okay.
Rebecca, and I'll go over the fee schedule. This will be an action item for everyone to approve. The subject is to review by the Management Commission of the Reserves fee schedule and report from 2022 and 2023. And then consider our staff recommendations for the 24 and 25 year fee schedule. We review our fee schedules every 2 years on even number years. So the last time that the commission looked at our fee schedule was in 2022. I prepare a report on what we've received income-wise off of that fee schedule, as well as what our costs are on the facilities that we charge rent for. The last time, I'm sorry, I already covered that. The statistics I'm going to cover the period of calendar year 22 and calendar year 23. So it's not on a fiscal year. These are all on calendar years. And just to note, during the first part of this report, we were still closed to the public due to the COVID pandemic. We did not reopen to the public in any of our facilities until May 1 of 2022. So just to recap what our current fee schedule is, and you can see this all on page 15 in your packet. We charge for 3 different areas. I'm sorry, 2 different areas. That would be our housing. And whenever you hear of Spruce Ranch, that covers our housing compound. We have the house at $25 a night that we charge. And then we also charge $250 a month if they're staying long-term. And that is also the same charge for our yurts. Both the house and the yurts have capacity up to 15 people at any given time. If someone is primarily working on a reserve project, so that could be interns, that could be volunteers, it could also be our partners, they are not charged for staying in our housing. So the fees that we charge are specific to partners and anyone else who's affiliated with the reserve that are not working on a reserve project. It kind of limits who pays and who doesn't. Income generated for those 2 years totaled $2,900 for Spruce Ranch. This increased from the last report of $750. The utility costs that we pay for Spruce Ranch totaled $2,304.86. So this is the first time in my time period here at the reserve, which is a little over 8 years, that we've actually had a net gain in income off of Spruce Ranch. So that is 100% a bonus in my eyes. We had a net gain of $595.14 during that 2-year period. When we talk about utility costs for Spruce Ranch, it is just for our electricity. We are on a septic and we are also on a well, so we have no charges in those areas. If you move on to page 16, it talks about who was charged for housing at Spruce Ranch, and it was very specific to partners that used our housing for seasonal workers or temporary workers, and that came from BLM, OSU, as well as ODF&W staff. We had multiple different non-paying residents that stayed at the Spruce Ranch housing compound during this time frame. It included DSL staff from Salem, our Margaret Davidson Fellow that comes and visits for field work on a regular basis, our interns that assist us with our heavy season work, visiting researchers, tote teachers, as well as our AmeriCorps staff member that has been here since August of last year. The other area that we receive income is from our auditorium rentals. So that continues on page 16 as well. The current rate for our auditorium is $100 for up to 4 hours, and then $150 for anything above 4 hours to the 8-hour mark. The total income generated for those 2 years for the auditorium was $725. The utility costs for the auditorium are integrated into the visitor center, so we have a hard time, pulling that out specific to this room. The renters for the 2 years included general public. We've had weddings, we've had celebration of life, we've had multiple different public or private type situations. Coos Watershed Association for their meetings, Nature Conservancy, the Coquille Indian Tribe, South Coast Early Learning Hub, as well as a Ford Family Foundation. So we have a lot of interest in renting our beautiful auditorium here for meetings as well as private functions. And then on page 17, you'll see my local rates and cost comparison that I did last month, looking at the other areas throughout the community that offer rentals. I'm not going to go over line by line, but we check with our local community college, Southwestern Oregon Community College, as well as Oregon Institute of Marine Biology, because they have housing as well. And then for the meeting room rates, I compared Coos Bay History Museum, the Milk Casino, the Coos Art Museum, as well as the North Bend Public Library. All of them have auditorium type rooms that people can rent for events. So my recommendations on the fee schedule for 2024 is to maintain the existing fee schedule. And I'm asking that because considering our remote location, the existing fees are still comparable to the local rentals. There are other areas that definitely charge more, but I feel like with our remote location out here, it would be really hard to charge any more just because of how long it takes to get out here, and it really kind of limits what they can do on site. So that is my recommendation for this year.
Okay, thank you, Rebecca. Any questions? And
Vicki, this is John. I do have a question.
okay, and then Cinnamon after you.
Are these, I'm not familiar with these facilities. Are these rates per person per night, or are they for the entire facility?
Ranch?
For Spruce Ranch and house and yurts.
Yes, it is specific to a bed. So just to give you a little background, each yurt has 7 beds each in it. And then in the house, we have 1 bedroom that has a queen size bed and 1 bedroom that has 2 single beds. So these rates are for a bed in shared housing. Everyone shares the kitchen. There's 2 public restrooms that they can use. It is literally like a bunkhouse type shared housing situation.
And you could stay a month for $250, one person for a bed.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a bed and then there's a shared kitchen. And is there a shared bathroom?
We have 2 handicapped accessible restrooms in the house. So it really is a shared type situation. Like I mentioned earlier, in the peak of our season, so summertime, we have close to 15 people that are sharing the same, living areas. There's a living room. There's, like I said, full kitchen with 2 refrigerators, stove, the whole works.
My guess would be that we're really not, it's nice to see that we're making a little bit of money over it, but we're probably really not making any money on it. I would think with maintenance and whatnot.
I would say when it comes to if there's any maintenance needs, things like that, we're probably breaking even. All the residents are required to do their own cleaning and whatnot. If there is any type of utility issues, leaks, things like that, my facilities staff jump in and take care of those things. So I would think if we really want to look at that, I would have to, look at how many hours my facility staff have, worked in the housing compound. It would be really hard to break down. That's why I've only taken into account the utility aspect of the facility.
I don't think the difference is going to be consequential.
Sorry, it's Saber here. So just coming from conversations with partners that,
Actually, Sabra, you come after Cinnamon, please.
yep, good.
Cinnamon, then Sabra, and then Laura Beth.
Yeah, I might just be jumping on kind of the same question. I felt like, and not making recommendations for changes this year, but tracking a little bit more of cost beyond utilities might be helpful as we continue to move forward to evaluate fees. There's an administrative fee on scheduling and booking. There's probably, I know that folks have to clean their own, but there's probably some work your facilities team needs to do. I'm not sure it's worth the effort to break that all down, but just noting that there's additional fees to these spaces, I thought was might be important in the future.
Okay, that's a good point. Back to you, Sabra.
Or about this first.
Hi, I just wanted to know a little bit more about those bunkhouse kinds of things. Are they only for people who are attending classes or associated with events going on at the reserve? Or could you, for instance, rent those out to students from one of the major colleges in Alaska that come down and spend a week undergoing oceanic studies of some kind, along the coast? Or is that something that you don't do?
The housing is available to anyone working on the South Slough project or our partners. So we've had situations in the past where, for example, OIMB, Oregon Institute of Marine Biology, might be full and they have a student that would need housing that could potentially work in our situation. Our local partners, ODF&W, they often have seasonal people that come from out of the area, and they, depending on availability and if we're full or not, could potentially rent one of the beds. BLM is another one that we have allowed to stay there in the past. We actually, there was a few winters ago where the Loon Lake BLM site had some major damage from a storm that came through, and it took out all the utilities for their normal housing for their employees. And during that time frame that they were renovating and fixing their well issues, we had BLM employees stay here, and then they actually commuted all the way up to Loon Lake on a regular basis for their work. So we do offer it out to partners only. We do not offer it up to the general public. So this is very specific to education and research is what we try and keep it to.
Okay, thank you. I really appreciate that answer. I have one more question in that regard. Is in case of an emergency, for instance, a forest fire somewhere nearby, could that be used to house firefighters who are struggling to take care of that fire?
That would definitely, because it would be very specific to the reserve. I can definitely see that. One of the things that I've also considered, we've been struggling to find some excess labor to help us on some of our trails since we lost the Shutters Creek Correctional Facility inmates. They used to be a huge labor force for us. And I've been considering looking at like Conservation Corps or something like that to come out for maybe 2 to 3 weeks to help us with projects. And Spruce Ranch could be a possibility for housing them during that time frame.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your answers.
Yeah, those are really good ideas, Rebecca. All right, I don't see anyone else on the screen. Sabra, are you still having a question?
So this is more of a comment, but I use, or the CTP program uses Spruce Ranch for both not usually housing instructors. They usually have their own make other arrangements, but we definitely have workshop participants sometimes use Spruce Ranch for payment. And one of the main factors or limiting factors as far as fees that I've noticed from those conversations with participants is the fact that people have to bring their own bedding, towels, as well as, do a cleanup afterwards, as well as the fact that it's especially seasonally, the Wi-Fi is limited. So my recommendation would be, I'm already planning on doing a willingness to pay survey for a CTP program schedule. I was going to be incorporating Spruce Ranch rates into that, whether, potentially wrapping Spruce Ranch rates into fee schedules or helping, help it kind of self-support for people that can't pay for housing for one reason or another. That might be one way to kind of narrow down some of these questions of whether we want to increase the fee, whether that would limit us getting people to come and use it. And that could potentially be wrapped up into the survey I'm already doing. So that's just a proposal just to help minimize duplicative efforts.
Okay, anyone want to comment on that? On the commission? I think that might be helpful to do as Cinnamon suggested, trying to track more of our expenses and what we can offer. And yeah, I didn't know, it's pretty bare bones at those facilities. And the Wi-Fi is a major problem. That will be resolved hopefully when we have the entrance redone and the new Wi-Fi laid. But and then I also need to make full disclosure here that we have allowed while Department of State Land staff stays at no charge, we are charging Patricia for 2 months of staying there because she had no place to live yet. And this is common practice for us when we move a new employee. So she is paying the full rate for 2 months, and then she needs to go because we have bookings that come in the high season. So Patricia's staying there through May 1st and paying the full rate.
This is Rebecca. I just want to make one more comment. This is very rustic housing. We do not have, this is not a 5-star stay. So this is rustic. People bring their own bedding. They have to bring their own towels. They have to clean up after themselves. This is not a motel. So that is why our rates reflect that, just to add to the conversation.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is that we'd like to track that this year to go ahead and maintain the existing fee schedule, but track it and do some outreach and see what we can come up with as a recommendation for next year. We do this every year, correct? Yes. Okay, can I get a motion and then we'll get a second and then we'll have further conversation if there is any. A motion to that you see on page 17, the recommendation.
I say we make a motion to recommend that we maintain the existing fee schedule, and considering our remote location, the existing fees are still comparable to local rentals. I agree.
And I would add to that motion, if you don't mind, that we will also continue throughout this year to explore opportunities to increase those fees.
Yes.
Okay, is there a second on that?
Second.
Okay, thank you, Laura Beth. Any further discussion about this? Don't hear any or see any. So all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, the fee schedule is approved. Thank you, Rebecca, and thank you everyone for your comments. And we'll continue to see what are the fruits of that labor throughout the year. And it is rather rustic. sometime next time we're out there for a meeting, we might want to take the Management Commission on a tour if there are no guests staying there. Okay, great. We'll move on to the Wasson update. That's all of our action items for the day. So we'll move into the informational items, and would this be Alice giving us the Wasson update?
Alice, hi, I'm over here in the auditorium.
Okay.
Not the correct presentation. Nope. That looks like the right one. And it looks like Ed is going to move the slides along for me. And while he's getting that set up to share the screen, this is, I believe, about 10 minutes. So if I tend to ramble, someone, shout at me because I haven't timed it. I just really wanted to give the commission and anyone attending today a quick snapshot on where we're at with the Wasson Restoration Project. And this looks like an old version of my presentation, so I apologize for that. I did have on this slide as well, I'm the project lead for the overall project, and then we have Jenny Schmidt is our monitoring lead for the project, and Jennifer Kirkland is our UAS lead for the project. We have Ryan Scott, who's our restoration technician, and a whole suite of other staff have been working really hard on that, and you'll see plenty of photos of them in their efforts. So next slide, please. And so this truly is a collaborative project. I've presented to the commission before on this, but I wanted to remind you that we at the South Sioux are not doing this in isolation. There is a large technical advisory team, as well as volunteers and participants and contractors and everyone working on this. So next slide, please. So I'll just give you a quick overview, just a quick reminder of what the Wasson Creek Restoration Project is, and then what's been happening in 2023, what's coming up in 2024, and any questions that you might have. Next slide. So just as a reminder, this is a watershed level restoration project. The watershed in question is the Wasson Creek watershed. You can see there on the lower left-hand side of the screen, and it is also situated on the lower left-hand side of the South Sioux Reserve. So the map on the right shows the South Sioux watershed. The green area is an old boundary of our managed lands in the watershed, and the orange is the project area. And so this restoration project involves returning an invasive species dominated historically agricultural land back to a wetland stream complex in the lowland areas, and then increasing complexity in our forests by conducting variable density thinning and trying to get healthier forests and more habitat. So next slide, please. So what happened in 2023? Next. So if I knew I wasn't going to be controlling this, I wouldn't have put so many animations in. Sorry, Ed, funding. So next. So we received the majority of the funding is through the SSNERR Habitat Protection and Restoration funds, which were made possible by the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law. Next. And then we also have the Coos Basin Coho Partnership through the Focused Investment Partnership, which is OWEB funding, where we're partnering with that group to complete the project, and received substantial funding from them. So in 2023, we completed our environmental compliance and our first round of permits. Next. So that is through NOAA, through the NEPA Environmental Compliance Review. Next. And BLM is actually helping us with our permitting process. So we went through and completed first round to install Beaver Dam analogs in 2023, and we are currently working with them to complete the permitting for the entire rest of the project. Next. So much monitoring, so much monitoring happened in 2023. Thanks, Jenny and fantastic team and all of the people that you see on this screen. We have photos of people installing groundwater wells and monitoring them. Ali's there pointing at a water quality station that was installed at the base of Wasson Creek to look at water quality throughout the restoration project. Jennifer Kirkland's there looking at elevation studies, looking at using RTK. We have folks looking at lamprey populations and then macro invertebrates. Next. More monitoring, stream flows, soil cores, forest plots, vegetation plots, installing benchmarks, and so much more. Next. Wildlife monitoring. So I thought I'd just highlight this particular study. So the images on either side are from our wildlife cameras. So we're collecting some fantastic images. It's been fun looking through those. In the center, we're working with the rogue detection team to collect deer scat. So these are highly trained dogs that will go with their handler throughout the valley looking for deer scat. And then we're sending off that scat to OSU Genetics Lab, which will be able to look at individual deer use and populations before our restoration works and then afterwards and see how that impacts them. So Jennifer's been learning a lot. There's a huge learning curve. There's a lot of fantastic new, I won't call them toys, highly intricate bits of equipment that go into the UAS monitoring. And Jen has started producing some fantastic maps and images, as you can see here. And so this is with our drone program that's being developed. And there's more to come this year, which is exciting. And Jen is going to give an update on that for the science updates. So we did a small piece of implementation this year. We installed some beaver dam analogs. So this was partnering with SSNERR and our CTP program to run a workshop. We decided that instead of just hiring someone to build these, why not build in some education, build in some stories and experience for our restoration practitioners and partners. And it was a fantastic success. Everyone had a great time, and we mimic some beaver activity. And this intent of this is to shallow up the deep incised ditches that we have there. Next. Click on that image there, Ed. So I thought I would give you sort of a sneak peek on what to expect in 2024. The images that are coming up here are part of a similar restoration project on the 5 Mile Creek, which is just north of Reedsport. So you can see here people working hard at collecting lamprey that are coming out of the mud. These are little tiny lamprey, as well as fish that were not collected before during the seining process. So one of the things with the restoration work is we'll be filling in the existing ditches, but we have to rescue all those really cool fish. That's a little tiny out of focus lamprey there. So we'll be collecting all the fish and relocating them so that they do not get buried in the mud. So next slide. So another step that's going to happen is that we'll have target elevation maps completed, and then we will be grading the valley to that elevation slope. You can see here, and go to the next slide as well, and click on that. So you can see that the reed canary grass will be pulled back and removed from the surface, and the surface is getting to target elevation. That's where you see the people walking throughout the area checking elevations, and then that material will be used to fill in the existing ditches and create what's called extended toe slopes, which direct water where we want it to go in the valley. Next. And then we're going to put a lot of large wood out on the surface of the valley. And so this is to direct flow in complex ways and make sure that we don't just get one straight stream flowing down the center of the valley. Next. As part of this, these large wood structures get pinned into place by vertical wood as well. Next, and click on that. So you can see here, one of the excavators is installing mimicking snags. And so this is an important wildlife feature. And so what they're doing is using some larger wood and driving it vertically into the newly graded floodplain. And this allows for birds to perch on them, woodpeckers to do their thing and create cavities so we can get some nesting animals in there. So this is another feature that is going to help attract wildlife to this newly managed restored area. You can go to the next slide. Yep. And then we have a small area that we're promoting tidal forested swamp. And so this involves building nurse cribs. So this is kind of like garden beds that mimic a decaying log, and you plant species that are native to tidal forested swamps. And in this case, it's Sitka spruce dominated. We have a really interesting partnership going on this very second. There are people working hard in the Wasson Valley. And so we are partnering with Coos Watershed Association to build these, but we are chipping some of the wood in our forest thinning project, and we are trucking it over to Seacoast Compost, which is on Seven Devils Road, only 5 minutes down the road, still in the South Slough watershed. They are going to look after those chips and partially decompose them for us until they're ready to build these cribs in the area. And so we're actually using all material from the Wasson Valley in this process. We won't be shipping anything in. Next slide. And then we'll be filling in the ditches areas. Next slide. Oh, you can skip that video. You can see here they're starting to fill it in. So that's after all of the fish have been removed from it. And then we're checking the elevations to make sure that it doesn't have down cutting. Next slide. And then we release the water onto the valley, and the water will start to spread over and create its own new flow pathways and reestablish wetlands. Next. And then planting. Yep. And so that's my last slide. Actually, I think we've got one more to thank people. There you go. So lots and lots and lots of people have been involved, many more than is on this screen, but I just wanted to acknowledge them all. And any questions or comments?
I am so amazed by this project. I just keep being amazed every time I hear about it. And can you just speak a little bit to the communications aspect of this? Because I know that Deborah and our team in the Salem office have really made an effort to video this project as we go forward, that there are plans to really make it a science, an understanding of the science, as well as an understanding of restoration. So can you speak to that?
Absolutely. And I apologize. I actually updated the slides this morning, but there must have been an old copy here. I did actually put the brand new, not a logo in. So it's a draft that Katrina sent me this morning. And if I can share that with you all later, that'd be great. But so Katrina, as part of the greater DSL, has been working really hard along with Deborah to conduct outreach. We have plans for a series of technical videos. And so the intent is to basically showcase this whole watershed restoration. So it showcases all of the different restoration techniques that we're using, as well as all of the different monitoring techniques. And there is so many. And so what we're doing is putting together 1 to 2 minute videos, just like this is what a beaver dam analog is, and a quick sort of video on how to make it. And our restoration practitioners are very excited about that. We're also contracting with PAC West. Rocky is the main contact there to do a short documentary that's a little bit more digestible to the public. So it's more public facing, and he will be coming to our 50th anniversary event, which is the Wasson Creek opening ceremony, and recording stories. And so I also wanted to highlight Deborah's hard work on the outreach around the Wasson opening ceremony as well, that's coming up on May 19th.
Okay, May 19th. And are we, remind me, are we going to have a commission meeting that day or the day before or near that date? Rebecca?
We're not. This is Patricia. The next, it's a land board meeting on August, the second celebration that was planned. You may be thinking of August 13th. That would be
Okay.
Visitor Center.
Okay, so the May 19th celebration, any of the board members of the commission are welcome to attend, but we're not planning a commission meeting around that date.
Correct. We haven't had invitations going out. I don't know if there's an agenda item for the 50th on the.
Yeah, so a little bit later, I have a full presentation on what we've done so far with the 50th, and I'll go into greater detail on all of those dates. But I believe we have invitations that are going out to all the management commission members for all 3 events that we're going to be having this year for our 50th anniversary. So there'll be more details coming on that.
Okay, that'll be great. And you know, Chris, I think this is a really cool project to highlight for NOAA and its partnership with the NERRs. And I can see that these technical videos are going to be really helpful to other NERRs across the country.
And John in the room here has a question. So
Yeah, I had really 3 questions or maybe 4. Coho, what are we finding in there?
yeah, so in Winchester Creek, which is the stream that Wasson flows into, there is a lot of coho monitoring being done. In the actual Winchester Creek, it has only ever been found once. Many years ago, there was a spawned out coho up in the upper valley about 10 years ago. And so through our fish monitoring, they haven't been using it. We've also done environmental DNA analysis of the creeks, and coho haven't been using it, but it's going to be fantastic for coho habitat after the restoration. We're going to see them all flood back in there.
I hope they agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then how about beaver?
Yeah.
Are they coming back naturally? We have a hard time on our property keeping them from coming back. You
Yeah.
don't borrow any. Try to make them available.
Beaver are an important part of this restoration process. They have not been coordinating because they decided to flood the valley this year instead of next year. So, which complicates things.
So
They are in, and we do beaver surveys of their dams every year, and the wildlife cameras have actually shown pictures of them on our beaver dam analogs, which is very cool.
That's neat.
Yeah.
And, you know, we've had several big restoration projects in the county over the last decade or so. And I think they've been very successful with almost all species, but in some cases, particularly mosquito recovery. And I suspect you're remote enough that that's not a big issue here, but have you been able to take any precautions? Because I know it's not a fun thing in my life when we have restorations and public mosquitoes to death.
Yeah, so we actually have been doing mosquito surveys for several years. We've been partnered with ODF and W so that when people say that there's more mosquitoes there after restoration, I can point to the data that says we've been bitten for many years.
Thank you for that, because some of that's been absent, I believe, from other projects. So, and then one last request, although I'll not be on the board, could I have an invitation to some of these?
Of course.
Invitations are going out to all management commission members and John Sweet because he won't be on it by then. Actually,
I think it should be management commission members past and present.
Yes, I believe they are. I believe the invitations are supposed to be going out within the next couple of weeks, so you'll be seeing them soon.
Great. Any other questions or comments? This is a big deal. It's taking a lot of time and coordination, but that's, we expected that. And I think we're all going to be thrilled with the results. And it is nice to hear Alice be so excited about it. And I know Saber was excited about the Beaver Dam analog presentation and the workshop. So this is all great. Glad to hear it. Okay, if we don't have anything else, we'll go right to the South SLU annual report. Thank you, Alice. And who is doing the South SLU annual report?
Rebecca.
Rebecca. And you will
It's
find
me.
that on page 18, though it is, yes, page 18 in your book.
Yeah, so the annual report is on page 18 through 34. And I have a quick PowerPoint presentation here that Ed's going to be opening up for us, just to touch on some of the highlights. Nope. It doesn't look like you have it open yet.
And this report will be presented to the land board when? Rebecca?
We're trying to get the PowerPoint opened up here. Yes, it will be presented to the land board meeting. I believe it was delayed. It won't be on the April agenda. I believe it was delayed to June just because the April agenda was already very, very full.
That's right.
Right there, Ed. Yep, that's it.
Okay, yeah, the April agenda is full.
Yep. So we were delayed until June on the presentation to the land board. So we're doing a short one here for you guys today. Perfect. That would be it. Can you see the
No,
Yeah.
not on Zoom.
Okay, we're working on getting it. The very first one on your left. You just passed it again. So some of the highlights of the annual report that I have in the presentation here go over just main points in the printed report that's in all of your packets. Can you see the report now?
No. We do have it in our packet. I see John Schaefer on page 21.
Can you see it now?
Nope.
That one right there. Now it should be shared.
Now we see it.
Okay, sorry for the delay there. So this is basically everything that happened in year 2023 at the reserve. Your packet details much greater detail than what I've highlighted here. I just kind of went through each program area and highlighted some of the hot topics, I guess you'd call it. Go ahead and next screen. So some of the highlights of the year cover are over 3.5 million raised for the implementation and monitoring of the Wasson Creek Restoration Project, which you just heard about from Alice. Our inaugural drone program was launched to assist with research, monitoring, and outreach. We leveraged over $1.6 million to support reserve activities, which is 38% more funding than in 2022. We had 4,413 hours of learning offered to the public and schools via field trips, summer camps, interpretive programming, and teacher professional development. We had 15 college and 3 high school interns, which contributed over 4,000 hours of service in the areas of research, education, communications, and stewardship. And I just want to comment on the interns. We do a lot with what we have. We have only 20 full-time employees here at the Reserve. So our internships that come in and assist over the season, over our busy season, just contribute so many hours that we're able to do what we need to do every year. So they are a huge bonus to what we do in the summertime. We also had over 508,406 square feet of invasive weeds removed from the reserve by volunteers as part of the Second Saturday Stewards program that Alice Yates monitors every month. Just to touch on what our plans and priorities are again, our main priority is to improve the understanding and stewardship of Pacific Northwest estuaries and coastal watersheds. And we do that in 3 different areas: climate change, habitat protection, and then invasive species. Those are our primary priorities in our management plan through the department, through NOAA. Next. Education. During 2023, our education staff served 2,120 students in the classroom, as well as on field trips to the reserve. We had 4-week after-school Estuary Explorers program for 18 elementary students that our AmeriCorps staff member Ashton served over the school year. We had spring break and summer science day camp for over 108 kids. That's huge. And we do this with such a small staff. Our community classes and outreach events for 3,206 people. We had over 3,000 people walk through the door at the visitor center over 253 days we were open. Next. Coastal training. Coastal training program that SABRA manages every year. We offered 8 trainings and we had over 125 participants. These topics included creating infographics, GIS remote sensing techniques and climate change impacts, accessible trail design, biochar kiln usage and demonstration, creating defensible space around structures in terms of fire, installing beaver dam analogs for restoration in the Wasson Creek area, and an overview of Oregon's coastal planning goals for local and city planners. Next. Research and monitoring. Our research group conducted 36 research and monitoring projects. And I didn't have a chance to add all of those, but they're listed out in your packet. They leverage limited resources to increase productivity, facilitated collaborative learning experiences for interns, scholars, as well as fellows, improved understanding of estuarine, wetland, and upland ecosystems, and they launched the drone program, which you'll hear about here shortly in the science update, to assist with research and monitoring in the reserve. Next. Go back one. And then our stewardship program. Alice actively engaged 460 students in steward activities in the reserve. 23 members of the public participated in stewardship activities outside of just the students. She gave public presentations to 245 people over the year. She partnered with more than 41 local natural and cultural resource professionals. And then she officially kicked off the Wasson Creek restoration, which will restore 525-acre watershed, but will also serve as a living classroom to learn and improve restoration practices locally, nationally, as well as on a global scale. Those are just some of the high points of the full report that's in your packet. Definitely read through your full packet. It's page 18 through 34, and I can open it up for any questions. Go ahead and close it. Oh. Sorry, we missed a page here. Facilities and land. So facilities, we have 3 full-time facility staff that cover the entire reserve. They do a lot of work with the time that they have. During 2023, they expanded the Hinch Road kayak launch to improve safety for the public. And in the picture here, you'll see Mike in the heavy equipment that we did that project with. We conducted multiple trail projects, including replacing boardwalks and also installing new education platforms. We assisted with accessibility upgrades to the public restrooms here at the Visitor Center. We upgraded Jonay Communications Tower with a propane generator to help us run our network in the low solar timeframes throughout the year. And then we've also made significant progress on the designs for the new entrance in partnership with the Friends of South Slough. Friends of South Slough actually has paid for that redesign, and we've also applied for a grant to be able to do that construction. And then the last thing is we've made significant, progress on expanding the reserve boundary to include all of the land that we have acquired over the last few years. When it comes to revenue and spending, we leveraged over 1.6 million from NOAA, competitive grants, funding from Friends of South Slough, and through fees charged for rentals and permits. The leveraged amount ends up being right at about 51% of the total funding for the reserve. And that increased 5.76% from calendar year 2022. And finally, the total respending for the reserve during 2023 was 3.1 million and change. And that covers all of our leveraged funds as well as the funds from the Common School Fund. Next. And that is finally it. Sorry about that. There was a gap in there. So now I'll open it back up for comments or questions.
Okay, this is great work, everyone. You have some questions about some of that? I can tell you the legislature always loves it when we give the South Slough report as part of our budget. They just think it's the greatest place on earth. So I appreciate it when we get letters of support from people who have utilized the South Slough to when our budget is up.
Well, I'd just like to make comment that I'm real impressed with the presentation itself. You did a really good job on that in our book here. And all the work you guys are doing is just fantastic. So thank you very much. I just appreciate it.
I agree.
Have any of you had a chance to go out in the canoe off the Hinch Bridge and gone up there in the water? Oh, we're gonna have to get you out there. Jessica, you live on the water.
I've been up at for my own beach with access, and it's beautiful. They're doing a fabulous job up in there. Everything looks what I've seen has just it's beautiful. So
okay. Well, Rebecca, thank you so much. And I know the communications team did a really fine job on making this look pretty, but the staff also did an excellent job on providing the information that went into this report. These are extensive reports in the department. We do reports on just about everything we do to the land board, and there's a lot of work that goes into these. And we also want to make them readable and fun and enjoyable. And so our communications team has been really, really good about trying to liven it up. And I think they've done a great job. Okay, so we'll move on to the next agenda item, which is other. Is there anything else under this area? Anything before we move to the information reports that's come up for people?
We just have two things. One, a quick update on our commercial permit. Normally that report is normally included in your packet, but it came in after the packets were mailed out. So I just want to update a little bit of information on that. Some of you might remember back in 2019, we created a procedure and a policy to be able to have commercial providers in the area apply for a permit to actively work within the reserve boundaries. And over that time frame, we've only had one company that has actually accessed that permit and continues to apply every year. That would be South Coast Tours. They provide guided kayaking trips throughout the reserve each season. South Coast Tours is ran by Dave Lacey. In his report for this year, for year of 2023, he provided 17 tours with a total of 32 passengers. During that time frame, they had $3,672.70 in income. And so it was a fairly successful season for them. One of the things that we might move forward in the future for, I didn't have time to prepare or present anything this time around, is he has requested that we consider looking at a 5-year permit period for these types of situations. Dave Lacey actually was the one that came to us back in 2018, 2019, and broached the subject of coming up with a permit process, which would allow him to commercially kayak guide in our reserve. So he kind of spearheaded that. I do have to say, over the few years we've had this in place, it has been very successful for him. And as a reserve, we haven't had a whole lot of problems or issues with him, really none at all. He gets, he goes through every year a training with our education staff on what we do here at the reserve, what topics he can discuss on his guided tours to keep that education moving forward to the people that he serves on his tours. So I think it's a win-win on both sides of the coin here, and maybe in the future we'll start to look at, extending that 1-year permit into a longer period of time, because it does take significant time to go through the permit process every single year.
Rebecca, remind me, because I remember when this discussion came up, and I'm not sure there are too many of us on other members on the commission that were here then, but remind me what we charge for that permit.
So the permit application is $75. And then if they follow through with the full application, they've provided everything needed, and we award them a permit, then it's $200. So that's a total of $75, excuse me, each year for each permit that's applied for.
Okay. Okay, sounds like, I mean, he got his report in late, so we really didn't have a chance to review it. But perhaps we could, if he's serious about wanting to make that a consideration for us to go to a 5-year permit system, I'd like to have Dave come in front of the commission and talk about that. And, I don't know if 5 years is what we do, or 3 years or something like that, but I think
that 5 years might be a little long.
It does sound
I
long.
think we would be looking more towards like 2 to 3 years at a time, because I want to make sure that his guides are up to date on, the information that our education team teaches them. 5 years is a long time to maybe forget those, topics that we want to make sure that they include in their tours. So I would be more considering the 2 to 3 year time frame. I feel like 5 might be a little bit too long.
Yeah. Laura Beth?
I was just wondering, you said a total of $275 for each permit. Does that mean per kayak, or just for the David Lacey, the head of the program?
that would be just for each business that applies for the permit. And so far, it's just been South Coast Tours that have applied for those permits.
Okay, thank you.
We did, I believe we did a robust outreach to see if others wanted to apply.
Correct. Correct. We went through the full process back in 2019 with a rules implementation, you know, the public comment period, all of it.
Yeah.
Maya's hand is up.
Maya?
Maya?
Maya, I'm sorry.
It's okay, no worries. Yeah, I guess I just had a question of, is there a report associated with the permit? So is there, you know, an application and then an annual report where they like hand in just kind of their, how many tours they gave and that sort of thing? Because you could imagine that maybe that would help a little bit if it were like a 3-year permit, but they did annual reports, you'd still have a little bit of a check-in and some data of how things are going or if there's new staff or that sort of thing.
Yeah, I would envision if we extended out beyond the 1-year time frame, they would still need to report back to us each year what their season was. For example, like the numbers that I just gave you for 2023, we would need to know how many tours, how many passengers, and what the income that was made off of that was. It would be required every year.
My recollection, Maya, and Rebecca, you can correct me if I'm wrong. We looked at maybe charging a fee based on their gross revenue.
Right. I think we kind of looked at, would it be a percentage of what their gross revenue was, or was it going to be a fixed fee for the permit? And at the time, because it was a new program, we went fixed fee. I don't know if that's something we considered changing in the future. If it was like 10% of the fee, so just example, 10% of what they made last year would be a little bit more, but it wouldn't be, you know, this huge amount of income coming in for the reserve.
Well, let's put this on a future management commission meeting and then provide the homework to the current commission about what we discussed previously, and then we can take a look at that. I think we're coming into Dave's busy season, so maybe in the fall we could have this conversation.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, fall as well. And then if we implement it, it would be implemented in 2025.
Right. Okay. Any other questions?
Hear
or
from John
comments?
Sweet.
Not a question, but a comment. I'll be leaving, so I won't be around to be part of a study like this, but I would really encourage the board that we consider a multi-year permitting process. And I wouldn't be uncomfortable with a 5-year, provided that there are certain guidelines and reviews each year. You have to keep in mind, I think we need to keep in mind that whoever has that permit has got to make an investment in materials, you got to have enough kayaks, and in time. And I think expecting someone to make such an investment every year or having only 1 year to recover that investment is going to limit what a person can do, and their opportunity to build a customer base is pretty slim if you're just going to do this year by year. Maybe even 2 or 3 years, it might be slim. So I'd advocate for a longer permit period with conditions that have to be met each year for whatever that's.
Your comments are well taken, John. Appreciate it. So I think it'll be a good conversation this fall. Okay, any other comments? And Rebecca, you said there were 2 things under other. Was there something else?
The next one is the update on the 50th, and actually Patricia is going to take that one on. Deborah Rudd would have normally done this, but she's off having a new grandbaby today. So she's off doing that. And we have another PowerPoint that Deborah provided us. She was hoping that she would be here today, but you know, things happen there. Not that one.
milestone. Just want to.
And then I think after we get this little presentation, we'll take a 10-minute recess and then come back and get the information reports.
You all see the presentation or?
Not yet.
Okay. Yep, there we go. Perfect. Now you should be able. So you should be able to see it momentarily.
Yeah, we do.
Okay.
Yes.
So I'll present this. This is Patricia on behalf of Deb, who put this together, and there's been a lot of work. So to start off with, how did we get here? Well, in 1972, Congress passed the Coastal Zone Management Act, directing NOAA to establish, among other things, basically monitoring, research, development, and operation of national estuarine reserves. And then in 1974, it was quite a busy year. Throughout that year, there was a lot of movement to try to get Oregon on the ballot to have the first first estuary in the reserve. And in the fall of 1974, the Nature Conservancy asked the governor to enter the acquisition phase to make South Slough Sanctuary Program the first in the network successfully. Next slide, please. So why are we celebrating? Well, there's tons to celebrate, and it's not to celebrate the South Slough as a recreational place for the community or a research site. It's also to focus on the historical use, the cultural significance of this space, honoring all of those who made this place unique and the significant contributions that they've all had to the reserve, the lands, and the people over time. So there's going to be a lot of focus for all of the events this year celebrating the 50th anniversary on capturing these stories from our stakeholders and partners and highlighting a lot of the work from community fieldwork experiences to a new dedication of all of the brand new exhibits and showcasing those. And really sharing a lot of videos, capturing a lot of the work that's been taking place over time. Slide, please. So in order to take a look at how we are going to celebrate this year, the team really looked at how it's celebrated the South Slough over past celebrations. Next slide. So in August of 2014, that was the 40th anniversary celebration. And there was a paddle with tribal partners, a tour of the science lab, lots of guest speakers, and a picnic and music on the lawn. Next slide, please. And in 2009, for the 35th, it was really taking a tour an Institute of Marine Biology campus and the Reserve Science Lab, ceremony service, hike on the North Creek Trail, and again, special guests being taken back to a local spot in Charleston. Next slide. In 95, looking at 20th anniversary, because we've always been celebrating throughout the years, you've got a celebration in the Oregon Institute of Marine Biology's boathouse. There was a huge bequest that was presented and a dedication ceremony as well for the newly built Big Cedar Trail. Next slide. So really preparing for this 50 years, it was first to take a step back and look at what's been already done over the years, and then how we can move forward. This effort really started 5 years ago with the Friends of South Slough strategic planning about different ideas from old slides, photos, newspaper clippings, to really ramping up a year ago, involving the reserve, the rest of DSL staff, as well as NOAA and SSNERR staff. Again, taking a look at how can we connect all of the people over time to celebrate our 50th with us. To just 6 months ago, really starting to dive down into, okay, what would be the budget list? But what would be the budget? What would be the invitation lists and emails that we need to start to gather, and really brainstorming on what do those events actually look like? And then throughout the year, we've been compiling videos, audio stories, and then of course, it's not a celebration unless folks know about it. So really ramping up the social media campaign. So we've got 3 events that are planned. Now there's other things that are going on. There's science pub talks and other things at the local brewery at Seven Devils. There's other things that are going to be going on, but these are the 3 more formal that are scheduled. And as Rebecca already stated, you all will be invited. So the first is Sunday, May 19th, and it's from 11 to 3 p.m. I believe that's on a Sunday. And this is really to kick off and celebrate the Wasson restoration site that you saw the video and presentation from Alice earlier. So it's all about Wasson, and just a huge monumental event. We are still working out all of the details with our contract providers and a sense of and the location. But I believe we're thinking it will occur at the Spur Ranch, so you all can see that bunkhouse in person that was discussed earlier. The second event is on Tuesday, August 13th from 12 to 3. That will take place here at the Visitor Center. That will coincide with a land board meeting with the entire land board, I believe, coming in person, the governor, secretary of state, and treasurer, along with some folks from NOAA, who I believe are flying in from Washington, D.C., among others. And so this will also have kind of like a ribbon cutting ceremony, because all of the new exhibits, or most of the new exhibits, will be open and on display. So this is very exciting, jam-packed event. And then last but not least is Saturday, September 28th. And this is really to go out into the community itself. So this venue will be at the Coos History Museum, collecting a lot of stories, a lot of speakers, slides, and Deborah's been working really hard on really getting everything together for that last event. So again, it's not only these 3 events, but these are 3 formally planned events. Next slide. And we look really forward to hopefully seeing all of you there, as well as a lot of our community members. And please, once you get your invitation, we'll want to make sure we get the word out. I'm happy to answer any questions as I can. Thank you.
Awesome. This is a big year. We're very excited about it. So thank you for all the planning. I know it's, who do you have on the planning committee? It's quite a diverse group.
It is. This is Rebecca. It is a very diverse group, and I really want to put, kudos out and a great round of applause for Deborah, because she has really jumped in and taken this on internally. She's organizing all the monthly planning. She's dealing with the vendors that will be catering and providing tents and all of the planning involved with this. So she's really done a huge pull of energy to get this pulled together. And I'm very thankful for her spearheading this.
I think it's more complicated than planning a wedding. I have been
Weddings in 1 year.
Yeah, I have been the mother of the bride when we had to plan a wedding, and oh my goodness, that was something else. Okay, great. Well, thank you so much. We look forward to sharing in the activities. I'm going to get them all on my calendar and make sure I can make every effort to make it to the South Coast.
Rebecca, are we,
Yeah.
excuse me, Vicki, I have a question. Are we coordinating with the Visitors Bureau and perhaps Travel Southern Oregon Coast and getting word out?
I believe so.
Good.
I believe
That's
all of
important.
those areas will be brought into the marketing of this. So of the 3 events that Patricia outlined, the one that's really going to be focused for the general public will be that one in September. So the one in Wasson, the first one in May, will be really focused on our tribal partners and the Wasson drainage in general. Bringing people in who grew up in the area and have a huge connection to that land. And then the one in August, the one in August for the land board meeting is going to be really focused on our representatives and our senators and NOAA, higher ups and whatnot. So we actually have committed, I'm not sure who's attending which event, but NOAA is going to be in presence at all 3 events. So it really is going to be a huge pull. Lots of different focuses. Each event is going to have its own focus, so to speak. But the main public one will be in September at the Coos History Museum.
I really was kind of thinking more about opportunities for travelers, tourists to have some activities for them to draw them to the property. You know,
That's on Deborah's list. I know she's been working with the comms team in Salem to do a really robust marketing campaign on it.
Good.
And I'll make sure that those are on our list.
Thank you.
Yeah, Travel Oregon is a really great asset, and they print those magazines that people pick up all over the place to learn more about what's going on in Oregon. So I am certain staff is involved in that, but that's a good question, John, and we will follow up for sure. Okay, any other questions about that?
I had a quick question. I would love to come to all three, but is there one of these events that you would prefer the commission prioritized for our attendance?
Oh, wow. You know, for me, I think the governor would appreciate seeing the commission members at the land board event. And there will be politicos there. So, you know, I think that one would be good to have a good showing of the commission staff.
Thank you.
Yeah. And then the Wasson Creek is just too fun to not participate in that one. I'd really like to get in that backhoe or that excavator. My 5-year-old granddaughter loves excavators.
I do have one more thing to add that we didn't mention in the slideshows. So Deborah did an awesome job creating a budget for all three events because there are going to be significant costs around those. And over the last year or two of planning, we've had a lot of our partners, including NOAA and SSNERR. SSNERR is the nonprofit for the reserve system, as well as FOSS, give us interest in helping us fund this. So after Deborah created the budget, Patricia sent out a letter to all three of those partners requesting financial assistance to cover some of these costs. So we're waiting for that response. We're not sure what we're going to get. Right now, I believe the budget for all three, so this is total for all three, is right at about $18,000 or $19,000. So it's actually a pretty significant cost, but I feel like between those three partners, we'll be able to get those costs covered, hopefully in full, where we're not going to have to pull out of our normal operating budget for this.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Rebecca. All right. So we could take a little 10-minute break for y'all just to get up out of your chairs and then come back and hear the information reports, or we can keep rolling along. What would you like to do? Laura Beth, you are muted, but I think.
Yeah, I'd like a break.
Okay. Okay. I think so too. I get tired of being hunched over and sitting in front of a screen. So it's 11:45. We'll come back at 11:55 and start with our information reports. All right. Thank you. But I think we need to get started. It's 11:58. Ed, can you start the meeting again?
It started. You're good to go.
Okay, great. We will come back to order then. And this is my favorite part of our management meetings, which is to get all these great information reports from staff. And as you know, they come to you in your notebook. And I had Kathy send it to me down here in California. You can also get it online, but I'm a paper person because I like to do my yellow highlighter and make sure I can follow along. So anyway, our first one is the administration and facilities, and that's always Rebecca. So you want to take it away, Rebecca?
I'm actually gonna bump up stewardship and Alice because she has contractors that she's got to be out at Wasson here shortly to do. So we're moving her to the top of the list. Take it away, Alice.
Okay.
Thank you. You'll be so sick of hearing from me. You'll be glad to get rid of me. So I talked a lot about Wasson, so that has been consuming stewardship's time. However, I thought I would talk about our connections with tribes, and I want to specifically talk about stewardship connections with tribes. A lot more is done in other departments. I just wanted to sort of reiterate that to say that I'm not covering them as well. So as you all know, the reserve is located on the ancestral lands of the Milik Coos peoples, and we work closely with the confederated tribes of the Coos-Law Umpqua and Sayus-Law Indians, the Coquel Indian tribe, and the confederated tribes of the Siletz Indians to co-steward and look after these lands and protect cultural resources. So just a few things that I wanted to highlight. We continue to work with the tribal historic preservation officers to protect cultural resources in anything that we do at the reserve here, as well as the Watson Creek Restoration Project. I recently attended a workshop hosted by the Coquel Indian tribe that was aimed at all of the restoration work and practitioners in our area and how to best protect cultural resources and center this throughout the process of planning our restoration projects and making sure that we are doing that in a way that works really well for everyone and doesn't sort of inadvertently damage any resources or hold up restoration projects. So that was a fantastic workshop and I appreciated attending that. We are also facilitating cultural practices. We really want to continue connections with land and water here. And so collecting, harvesting resources for cultural practices is really important. And we are working to better make that an easier process and a more streamlined process for our partners. The photo that you saw in the year-in review summary was the Coquel Indian Tribe youth crew who came out to the Wasson project. They came out several times over the summer focusing on invasive species removal. And then this next year, they're planning on coming out again and will be focusing on planting native species, including culturally important species. And so this is a partnership that we've fostered that we would like to see throughout the restoration process so that youth can get exposed to the entire and invested in the work that's being done here as well and see that positive change in the valley. And on that front, the Wasson opening ceremony, as Rebecca said, it is a strong emphasis on tribal connections to land, as well as Fredrickson family and the Wasson families who lived in the valley, and really honoring and celebrating the connections that families have had to this area. We also submitted a grant to increase capacity and resources for the Coquel Indian Tribe and CT Clusie, as well as the reserve to implement fire projects to promote living cultural resources and using Indigenous methods and promoting cultural connections to fire in our community. And so we're excited about that grant and hopefully that gets funded and lots of fun things coming up. We also have a grant through the Neuroscience Collaborative. It's a Catalyst grant that is a one-year project in which reserve staff, as well as our tribal partners from CT Clusie and Coquel Indian Tribe, will be joining the reserves from Washington, Alaska, and ourselves at the Hawaii Reserve at Haiea. And so each reserve is bringing staff and tribal partners to learn about the Indigenous connections and the way that Indigenous communities in Hawaii work with their reserve there. And so we can have an enriched experience with our partners and then come back here and really learn from that experience and hopefully strengthen those co-stewardship and relationships. So I just wanted to highlight some of the fantastic stuff that we're doing in connection with the tribes and really appreciate their partnership as well throughout the stewardship program here at the reserve. Thank you.
Thank you. And Laura, Laura Beth, since you're on the tribal council at Coquel, could you tell me, is the workshop that your THPO put on, is that something you do every year for state agencies and federal agencies?
I don't think it's set in stone that we do it every single year. I think it depends on what's on the agenda, what the priorities are at the time. But or certainly anytime anyone asks to meet with us in a workshop setting, we adhere to that immediately. It's one of the things that we it's one of our priorities, is to make ourselves available to exchange information and offer information on any topics that people want to discuss. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, you did. Well, I just know that I've attended, the CT Klutzy have done cultural information days with other state agencies and federal agencies. And I know I've attended those at the museum, at the Coos Museum down on the waterfront.
And I can speak to that as well. This workshop was the first in this particular effort to center cultural resource protection in restoration projects specifically. So this was the first one, but they are hoping to increase, do this annually and develop better ways of doing, I guess. And so there's a lot of discussion around that, but there was definitely going to be follow-ups and see where this goes.
Well, I found it fascinating. It's really great to hear about tribal history. And I think Laura Beth, you lost your historic preservation officer to ODOT. She went to ODOT, which was a great catch for ODOT. But I'm sure you've backfilled that quite nicely. But it really is nice to get the history. I know my staff enjoys it, and we're looking forward to the annual tribal summit next month, I think. The Cow Creek are putting that on. And my recollection is it was scheduled earlier, and then the Biden administration pulled all the tribes in for a national event, so it had to be canceled. So, okay. All right. Well, I'm looking forward to that, and hopefully I'll see you there.
Hopefully, yeah, I've got some conflicts that I'm trying to get out of, but hopefully.
Okay. Yeah, I know. I've asked my the managers at DSL to see what staff they has time to go, because I think it's really important. And it clearly is. Alice has talked about how we integrate our cultural resources with tribal knowledge. So that's great. Okay. And all of our restoration projects. All right, Alice, go see your contractors. Unless someone else has a question, let me check. Okay. This is like, the cable guy says he'll be here between 1 and 5. Is that is that the same way with your contractor?
Should be here at a certain time, I would think.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay. All right. So we're back at the top of the menu.
Yep, we are. Admin and facilities.
All right. Well, there
This
you
is
go.
Rebecca. I just have a couple things I want to highlight. The majority of what has happened since the last meeting, again, is in your reports. I think the two highlighted areas that I want to kind of focus on is what we've had so much going on since we last met with you. I think the biggest thing, the two big things for me has been, it's been a time frame of a lot of recruitments, and it's been a time frame of a lot of grant applications being submitted. So since we last met, administratively wise, when Bree put in her notice she was leaving, I took over as the reserve manager. So I was doing double duty. During that time frame, thank goodness for Vicky, we were able to partner in getting Patricia recruited for. And so that was one of our big recruitments. And during that time frame, I also recruited for our seasonal positions. So we have 2 seasonal positions that come to the reserve every year. One is our seasonal education specialist, and that primary job duty is working with our field trips and our summer camps and interpretive programs. So basically assisting during our heavy event season with all of the education activities that we do. The other position that I recruited for was for our seasonal park ranger assistant. This is a new position for us. We were just allotted it in this biennium. So in this budget cycle we're currently in, this is the first time recruiting for that position. So that position alleviates some of the work that our facility staff do over the busy season. Again, this position is going to support all of the education activities and the visitor center during those timeframes. This person is going to be doing all of our cleaning, all of our landscaping, just basically following up after every field trip, after every summer camp, doing that cleaning that is, really intensified during our busy season. So we were able to fill all 3 of those positions. You met Cherie Turner earlier. She is participating here today in the background. And then we also have Sage Cruiser, who is our new park ranger assistant, and she's actually out of the building today doing other things. The other thing I wanted to highlight is the grants that we were able to get submitted over the last 3 or 4 months. Literally since January, I have been able to get out the door $3.8 million worth of grants we've applied for. Lots of different areas that those grants are going to be supporting. The first one is our yearly operations grant through NOAA. Our first draft went to NOAA last month. That is a total of right at about $875,000 for a year. The next one would have been our construction project for the relocation and improvement of the visitor center entrance that you've heard a lot about. Last meeting, you heard a big presentation over the design process that we've been through with the Friends of South Slough since the beginning of last year. So that grant ended up being 1.6 million. That is a competitive grant. So we're in the pot with other reserves applying for the same pot of money. I hope to be able to hear whether we're high ranking on that. Hopefully sometime first part of April. That money will kick in July 1 if we receive it. The third grant that we applied for was for a $1 million competitive acquisition grant for the Winchester Tributaries property. This is another property that we've been working with Wild Rivers Land Trust for the due diligence for some time. This is a common school property that we will be transferring from the Common School Fund into the reserve boundary for use and conservation. And then the last grant we applied for was for infrastructure improvements to returning access to the Wasson Creek Restoration Site, and then replacement of some monitoring pilings throughout the estuary. That is for $400,000, and that is non-competitive, so that is guaranteed. We will be receiving that through the BIL project. That pretty much outlines my administrative updates. Those were just 2 really big highlights that we've been working on over the last few months. And then I know that Patricia here has a quick update on what our plans are for next week.
Hi, folks. Yep, it's our annual meeting in Washington, D.C., and Rebecca and I will both be attending all week at NOAA's conference. I'll be learning everything about NOAA and NERRs, and a part of that week-long trip is also a trip to Capitol Hill with making appointments with your representatives and your electeds, so we can explain a little bit more about all of the good work that we're doing and making sure that we have appropriate funding. There is talk that there may be 2 more reserves added to the network in the coming year, which is fantastic, but also wanting to make sure as the pizza gets larger, everyone's slice does not reduce. So timing is really critical to make sure that that message is received. So we have 2 appointments already scheduled, which I'm excited about. And then Lisa Phipps from DLCD, from Coastal Zone Management, will also be joining us as well. And we also have a brand new representative, a new liaison, Jennifer Koister, who I believe is joining us in DC as well. So we're really excited about all of the new partners that we have, and seeing what we can make sure that they hear our 50th anniversary celebration is coming, as well as everything we've been working on the last year.
Thank you both. And I want to really thank Rebecca for taking on both the reserve manager duties as well as her own. And it sounded like, Rebecca, you were very busy with all these grants. And I know that whole recruitment process was very robust and took a lot of our time. So your time is appreciated and was appreciated. Let me ask you, and I suggested that Rebecca go with Patricia this time to DC because it's Patricia's first time as a reserve manager. And I think 2 voices are better than one when you're going back to meet with our folks. And I just want to make sure that we let them all know about the great work that we're doing out here. Let me ask this one question of Patricia. Who is going to be the acting reserve manager while you 2 are gone?
Jean has agreed to cover both Rebecca and myself.
Jean?
Yes.
Oh my goodness sakes. Jean.
Deputy Director.
Okay. All right. We've got our plates full. Okay, well, thank you. And I see Chris has her hand up.
I just want to add emphasis to what was shared about the funding application. So all of these funding opportunities that they mentioned come through our office, and I will just acknowledge that it's an exciting time to have so much money available to be able to be putting out in competitions for reserves, but we also acknowledge just how much work it is for all of the reserves to be applying for their regular ongoing annual funding and their ongoing funding, and be trying to take advantage of these limited time opportunities under the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law and Inflation Reduction Act. And so I just want to make sure the rest of the commission does hear and appreciate that is no small lift to try and just really take advantage of these one time, it's 5-year money. So it's a very limited time opportunity to be able to identify projects and pull everything together, apply, and try to be competitive. So certainly kudos to the staff for the effort that I know goes into that. We're working hard on our end to get the money out, and we know it takes a lot of time.
Yeah. After the 5 years, we'll go back to the 10 cups and the wire and the duct tape, with your hand out begging for money.
Perhaps that's what Patricia can address when she's on Capitol Hill. But and then just the other note. So the new liaison from our office, it's the day-to-day liaison to the reserve. That I think, I can't remember if it was Patricia or Rebecca, but who just mentioned it. Her name, Jenny Kester. She comes from Oregon. I believe she was Department of Fish and Wildlife previously, so some of you may have worked with her in that role. But she has started with our office now. I do think she will be in Silver Spring, DC area, so you'll get to meet her then. And then I'm hoping to have her join me in May at the 50th event for the restoration. I'm going to have her come as well to help with some more introductions for whoever's around.
Cool.
That's all.
Any other questions or comments? All right, thank you for your report. We will now move on to the education report. Jamie?
Hi there. Can you all
Hello.
see me okay?
Yep.
All right. Well, like Rebecca said, most of it is in your packet, and the winter is usually, and I think most folks know this, but the winter is pretty quiet for us program wise relative to the rest of the year. There's still programs, but it's not as crazy, mostly because of this weather, this that we've all experienced this whole past winter. But we did have community programs running regularly, even though sometimes get rained out or winded out. But they do kind of switch inside. But there are a lot fewer school field trips and different like community events and outreach events. So I was just going to highlight a couple. One that's become pretty popular is a partnership with the library where the reserve does a presentation on about bats, and then all the people who attend get to build bat boxes to take home. It's a pretty heavy workload on the front end for Eric, prepping all of the bat box materials for lots of people, but they really enjoy that whole experience. And then we also did our Teachers on the Estuary workshop this winter in partnership with the Tillamook Estuaries Partnership, which is the other estuaries program on the Oregon coast. So that was kind of fun. I got to go up and work in their estuary with some new teachers. So it was I think a really neat partnership for us, and it was their education coordinator's first time running a teacher workshop, so she really appreciated the support. The exhibit project is still ongoing. We have pieces in production now, and then some pieces we're still kind of working through, but hopefully by the end of June, or ideally the latest by August, by the land board meeting in August, all the parts will be installed, so everybody gets a chance to see the end of this project, or at least the exhibit part. I don't know where the doors will be at that point, but we're getting really close, and it's been really nice to have the opportunity to make these updates. Next week we have a couple days of spring break camp. It's spring break for schools in Oregon, so we just offer a day camp for students to come and hang out. And we're hoping for some of the weather like we had last week, not that downpouring sort of stuff, but either way, it'll be a fun time. And then our summer science camp sign up for we're gonna try, I can't remember if I mentioned this at the last meeting, so I apologize if it's a repeat, but we're gonna try a lottery for summer camp signups this summer. Because previously they've filled really quickly and people find it frustrating when they can't immediately get there when the registration opens. So we have a 2-week sign up window, and then kids will be randomly sorted into slots, and then other kids, if they're over the amount of camp, which is generally 20 students, well, they'll go onto a wait list. So it'll be a new process for us, but we're going to start that 2-week sign up window this Friday, the 22nd. And the last thing I wanted to mention was that Ashton, who's our AmeriCorps worker that you saw briefly, and then he left for a meeting, spoke at the city council in Coos Bay yesterday. And he's, as part of their AmeriCorps service, they have to attend public meetings. So he had been to some city council meetings in Coos Bay and said that he thought it was, people just go, the public comment period is just a lot of complaints. And he wanted to go and say some positive things about the community because he's really enjoyed being in Coos Bay. So that was really nice. He only gets 3 minutes, but it was a nice little presentation. And all the city council members thanked him for being there and for South SLU's existence in the community. So that was nice to see. That's all I got.
Thank you, Deborah. That's really cool when these young people finally get the courage to go talk to their elected officials, because it can be very scary for some. And he's right. People do tend to complain to their elected officials at these meetings, but there are also some good things to share. So I'm glad he was able to do that. Any other questions or comments? All right, well, I know you're gearing up for the big spring season, which it really gets busy in the spring. And my son and his family are looking forward to spring break because both him and his wife are teachers. And they kind of need a break. And they will visit the central coast, the north central coast up at our place in Nescoin.
Yeah, we actually have a teacher volunteering to help with spring break camp. I asked him if he would share That's what he wanted to do for the spring break, but he's gonna help us out, so it's gonna be nice.
Oh, good, great. Okay, let's see, what do we have? Coastal training, that would be Sabra.
You hear me?
Yes, we can.
So of course, there's been several workshops over the last period. Those are detailed in your packets, but the one that I'm going to highlight for my update is one that is a co-hosting partnership. So the Coastal Zone Management Goals workshops that I've been doing in partnership with Meg Reed of DLCD, Department of Land Conservation and Development. Meg approached me last year and explained that she was planning on going county to county, contacting the city and county planners to do a detailed session with each of those county groups to go over what the coastal zone management goals were, goals 16 through 18 specifically that have to do with the coast, what resources are available, and then from DLCD, and then also doing a facilitated discussion around what needs are apparent in each county. There's been a lot of staff turnover, especially since COVID in most of the jurisdictions. So this was not only a chance to get to know a new cohort, but also to kind of get everyone on the same page, as well as kind of assess the technological abilities and then needs as far as GIS, planning, mapping software, and policy. So 5 of the 7 coastal counties sorry, 4 of them have been completed to date, with Curry County being next week. And my role in those has been to help Meg put together the agenda. I came up with a exercise on how to implement the coastal goals, being as they are somewhat geography specific, but a lot of times there are nuances and overlaps. So asking them to go through a thought exercise, as well as helping facilitate the discussion, as there's a lot of overlap and technical experience abilities vary a lot jurisdiction to jurisdiction. It also gave me the opportunity to meet with a lot of the local planners that either based on geographical needs or just availability, as all those people are always very busy and wearing multiple hats. I hadn't gotten the chance to know them and get to and explain what the coastal training program is, if that exists, especially for the folks on the North Coast, and how we can potentially offer technical assistance in the future. The feedback has been overwhelmingly positive. It's also helping me get to know what activities DLCD kind of already has a handle on versus where we can partner in the future. And particularly at the Coos County workshop, there was some very specific reserve asks or questions that were brought up. So there's going to be a lot of follow-ups going forward, both from the specific jurisdictions as well as future partnerships with the LCD. And it's been a very exciting process. So we're hoping to potentially not necessarily do a repeat, but do topic-specific follow-up workshops with specific jurisdictions. And that will probably be going forward over the next couple of years. Any questions?
Oh, there we go. Chris has one.
I have a comment again, more than a question, but I just want to say I really love hearing about and seeing the collaboration between the reserve and the coastal program at DLCD. Since both of those programs are part of this national coastal zone management program, we love to see them being able to work together and support each other. So, Sabra, thank you for your role in that.
Thank you.
Yeah, and Elisa Phipps is really a good representative of DLCD. I'm glad she's going to DC with our team. Okay, thank you, Sabra. We'll move into science. Sean, something exciting? I think.
Thank you. I am not Sean. He is out busy today, and so is all of our science staff. So it's me, Jennifer Kirkland, reporting out for the group. As you've heard many times today, our drone program is really up and going. I kind of presented on this last time, and it was suggested that I bring out some pictures. So Ed is going to queue up some imagery, just like a PowerPoint slide with a ton of pictures. Are you guys able to see that now?
We can.
Yes, so that's just going to play through while I give a quick update. The drone program, yes, it's super exciting, not only for us at South SLU, but other partner entities in the area are also very excited about building this capacity in the region. As we develop our skills, we're sharing that out to others, and potential projects are just lining up. So it's very exciting to be in my position. South SLU is also part of a Drone the NERR's Catalyst grant awarded by NOAA. So we are the West Coast Reserve representative on that grant. We're partnering with many East Coast NERRs, and we're developing a national like SOP, standard operating procedure for monitoring vegetation by drone. And the thought is that we would reduce the impacts on the ground to vegetation. So it's been very interesting trying to talk to East Coast folks about our steep and deep valleys and super tall trees, which is something they don't have over there as we plan flight missions. So we don't have any accidents there. In addition, all the science staff are busy today, like I mentioned. Some are attending the Coos Basin Coho Partnership meeting. Others are planting eelgrass seeds with our current fellow for a field experiment. And another is conducting water quality monitoring up the Coos estuary. We are currently reviewing applications for our Margaret A. Davison Graduate Fellowship. We received 5 great applicants. We will submit our recommendations this week. This will be our 3rd fellow. Our current fellow, Laura, is finishing up her master's at Oregon State University, and she's been accepted to a PhD program with the University of Washington to continue her work with eelgrass. So we're really excited for her in that development. The rest of the science staff have all been busy getting ready for the summer season. We are reviewing our summer intern applications. We had a very large applicant pool this year, which I think really speaks to our program here at South SLU and the quality to have that high of competition. So we're looking through the many applicants, and we'll have about 8 interns at the science lab this summer. So you can see the science staff have been very busy, and we are looking forward to an even busier 2024. Any questions from the group?
Let me get myself back on video. I like to take myself on video so it doesn't distract from your video. Great. There are lots of pictures as well. There should be with a drone. So it just provides us a new way to do more science, which is really great. Anyone have any other comments? And as usual, the science team has a robust report in your packet, starting on page 55.
Vicki, do you ask a question?
I'm sorry, there's a question, Maya.
One question I had was, those pictures are awesome, by the way. I guess it's more of a comment. Nice job, Jennifer. Those were really beautiful. And I was wondering if those are accessible, like if those were things that could be used for teaching or things like that when people are looking at watersheds or teaching, for example, an estuarine biology course at OIB or something like that. It just seems like a really nice local shots of our local estuary in South SLU. They were pretty lovely.
Well, thank you so much. Currently, we don't have them publicly available as like open source. Anyone can go on there and look at them. But if anyone sends in a request, a data request to the South SLU via their website, we're more than happy to supply a large selection via box.com. We recently had this last summer, we partnered with NASA for an internship program, and one of their interns went on to get this national geography award, and she requested quite a few drone images for her presentation. And so that was really fun to be incorporated into her basically award speech and presentation. So just send me an email.
Very cool. And I also wanted to just thank both Sean and Allie in particular, who take on REU interns every summer. They're taking on 3 of our NSF REU interns this summer. And so I appreciate their longstanding collaboration with us on that. They've taken at least 25 mini interns over the last 6 or 7 years from OIB. So thank you.
Well, that's great to hear. I'm glad we continue to share and collaborate the 2 groups. That's awesome. Speaking of which, Maya, are you still involved in the replacement of your director?
Yes, so we've finished all the interviews, in-person interviews for the new OIB director. And then we're deliberating and getting input from many stakeholders, including people at South SLU that came into the director's interview science lectures, as well as their leadership and vision talks. And so we'll be making offers in the next couple weeks.
Oh, great.
Yeah, we have a bunch of really good candidates, so we're excited.
When you want to do a recruitment, you've got to take the time to do it well if you want to find the right candidate. So good for you. Okay, great. Well, thank you. And thank you, Jennifer. It looks like too much fun. Okay, well, that brings us to South SLU. Christine, have you got a report for us? And Christine, are you still, there you are, there you are. But you're muted.
Okay. I am going to share, just as a segue to what you all were seeing with aerial photographs from the drone. This is the inside of the front cover and the inside of the back cover to the 3rd edition of the South SLU Adventures book that is actually in press right now. And so this has been quite an effort to find the old files and bring things up to date with a different preamble. So we're pretty excited about that. In addition, this is the new cover, and it's going to have the 50th anniversary edition on it. So I'm sharing that with you today, that with a new preamble and also a full list of sort of the highlights that have occurred in the last 50 years. And just as a little segue of how important these different anniversaries are this year, because the South SLU is celebrating 50th, OIMB, of which I am a summer alumnus from way back, 100 years at OIMB, and then 150 years for the city of Marshfield, Coos Bay. So it's a big year, and I think you had talked about what segues might be happening in communications. I was just visiting with Allison and Janice at the Visitors Bureau yesterday about this. They're going to have a logo available for the city, and I told them we need to share all the different logos for these events, these amazing events that all happen this summer. And so it's going to be a busy time regarding tourist interest and just learning about the community, which is been affected by all of these amazing partners. So it is a great opportunity. So I think the rest of the stuff that has been talked about, it's in our report. We really pushed hard on the redesign of the entrance, and we're keeping our fingers crossed that that PAC grant goes through so we can begin to announce that and roll it out. It's a really needed change for the reserve. So that's about all I've got right now. We've certainly been busy with both of those projects. So anybody have any questions? I think Jeannie's on the line here. We've been hanging in.
I see your name. I see your square.
This has been a marathon to sit through, but we're last but not least, I guess, today.
Yeah. Well, we can always put you at the front of the agenda if you'd like. So just let us know. You used to be at the front of the agenda, I think, under the public input, but we consider you as part of our whole who we are, South SLU, so we put you in with the information reports.
Yeah, I can't emphasize enough of how the story, that the adventures that are documented in the South SLU Adventures book is really a very personalized history. And every time I read through those chapters, I learn something more about who was here, a nice treatment of some of the tribal families, and just the details of that, and what it could have been if it hadn't been preserved is kind of scary, really. So it's a success story that we all need to celebrate and realize that it's a work in progress, and it will be for perpetuity as we meet the challenges. So it's an impressive documentation.
Well, I look forward to seeing the new edition. When do you expect the printing to start?
It's in press right now, but
okay.
They have certain days that they work on things, and so we'll be getting proofs. Literally just uploaded the final files yesterday, so it's hopefully our plan is to have it available for the 18th of May.
Well, I have my old copy in case you don't, but we'll look forward to it being done.
Vicki, this is Rebecca. I do have one more thing to add to Christine's update. So with this reprinting of the South SLU Adventures, our goal is to be able to have copies available for all the VIPs who will be attending all 3 events this year. So that'll be kind of their welcome gift for coming and visiting the reserve for all 3, May, August, as well as September.
Okay, as long as it stays under $50.
Not us, it's
well, and we have to talk. We're going to have a meeting with Rebecca, I believe, tomorrow afternoon, because we've never had a firm number on that. So we need to revisit that for sure. But it is an amazing story, and Melody Caldera was the editor for that book and as an author of many of the chapters, and she has written the preface to this 3rd edition, and she will be available at least for the Wasson Creek because her family is based there too. I mean, she comes from the early roots of white settlement in South SLU.
Great. Okay, well, I look forward to it. This is going to be an exciting year. It's also my 50th class reunion in Reedsport, which is the least of the exciting things that's going on, but I'll be spending a lot of time at the South Coast this year. Okay, that brings us to a close on the information reports. Always exciting. Our next scheduled meeting is Thursday, July 25th from 10 to 1. I believe that's an in-person meeting. Rebecca, can you confirm that? Rebecca?
Correct. It is in person.
Okay, that's what I thought. You've got to go to the South Slough in the summer. Okay, I think that's it. Anything else for the good of the order before I take a motion to adjourn?
I would like to add a couple things. First of all, I really want to thank Rebecca again for all her work while we were in the works for looking for Patricia. And Patricia, you sounded like you've been there the whole time in today's meeting. It's pretty impressive. So that part, it's great. I'm really happy about that. And John Sweet, I want to say thank you very much. It's been a pleasure to get to meet you and work with you a little bit and whatever you're doing later. Good luck with that. And then thirdly, I want to say, I don't know if anyone's looked online, but the South Slough, whoever's doing their online social media stuff, did a great job on the new website. It looks fabulous. And even in Facebook, Patricia, you're on there today. So someone's doing, it's a great job and well done. So thank you very much.
Well, I appreciate hearing that. Our comms team has been working on the website for, I think, 3 years.
Well, it looks great. They did a fabulous job. And it has some of those, pictures from way up. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's great. And yes, thank you for pointing out. John Sweet, you will be missed.
Yes.
I know you're not going anywhere, but you just won't be coming out to the South Slough anymore. But we have really appreciated your humor, your insights, and your friendship. And I look forward to that all continuing as we keep in touch over the years.
Thank you. It's been a privilege to have been here. Thanks again.
All right. Okay, anything else before we take a motion to adjourn? All right, I'll hear that motion from someone.
I move we adjourn.
Oh, Madam Vice Chair, thank you. You know, that's actually one of the things that the Vice Chair gets to do is make that motion to adjourn. I remember Chief Brainerd always made that motion. So we'll give that honor to you as well. All right, is there a second to that motion? And you know it's not debatable.
Second.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, no opposed. Thank you all so very much. We will see you all again real soon. Enjoy the rest of your day.
All right, you too. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.